who's got a now or never vibe to them in 2024? Bonnie Tyler has a great song called The Total Eclipse of the Heart. And the chorus goes like, what does it go? And I need you now tonight. I need you now more than ever is essentially a paraphrasing of what she says in that chorus. Who are those teams in college football in 2024? You could call them window teams if you wanted to. The time is now. If you're not doing it now, is it going to happen later? Not saying it can't, but it's kind of the vibe we're getting from some of these teams. So I put this out on my Twitter page at JD Pickell and just asked y'all your opinion on this thing. Y'all gave us some great responses. One of the responses we got the most of was the old Fighting Lane Kiffins down there in Oxford. Ole Miss, man, they've got a window, and here's the thing, too. If you're a fan of Lane Kiffin and Jackson Dart and that whole show out there, they know they've got a window, and Lane Kiffin has attacked the portal how he does because of that window. Walter Nolan, Princely Umanmielen, two individuals added to that defensive line, which you've heard me talk a whole heck of a lot about. Here's the other part, though. Nick Saban is no longer coaching at Alabama. You're a college football junkie, so you already know that. But the reason why that's important, that is one less boss level, if you're an Ole Miss fan, that you have to get through and ultimately beat to win the SEC. So that's one part of this. The boss level has been removed. Ole Miss, there's a bit of a pathway now. The other part of this, though, now we just spent, 10, 15 minutes talking about the college football playoff expanding to 12 teams. Long gone are the days where you got to get to Atlanta. You got to win the Hunger Games that was the SEC. Stand on top of that mountain as you walk into the 14 playoff. Now it's like, hey, can you be 10-2? Can you be top 3 in the SEC? Top 4 in the SEC? Gosh dang it. Like, if you can do that, then you find your way into the college football playoff. Jackson Dart, he's back for another year. He's not back for a year after this. Same thing with Trey Harris. Same thing with Juice Wells. Like, this is your window. You have the roster right now to go make it happen. Lane Kiffin knows it. Everybody in that building knows it. And we've said it before, I'll say it again, not making the college football playoff this year would be, 1, a failure, and 2, a missed opportunity. Because if Ole Miss makes the college football playoff and wins some games, I think it boosts the high school recruiting level. I think it boosts the transfer recruiting level even further for Lane Kiffin. And that's a dangerous thing now. You give Ole Miss some ammo on the recruiting trail, give them some real proof of concept as a team, further than what they did a season ago, which was already a tremendous proof of concept. Like, I'm just saying, they would really be cooking with gas, in my opinion. I think Ole Miss would establish themselves even more so as a destination for not just portal talent, but also high school talent, which could help things in a massive way. Miami, need you now tonight, need you more than ever. For Bonnie Tyler, you got what you need on the roster. That hasn't been the case since Mario Cristobal has been in Coral Gables. And I think the feeling for a lot of folks around Miami or in the college football public is it feels like the boy that cried wolf. For those of y'all that don't know that story, a boy, I think he's a shepherd or something in that story, and his job is to watch the sheep, and he goes to the town 2 different times and tells them there's a wolf coming when he was just playing a practical joke. Then that 3rd time, the wolf actually does come and devour the entire herd, but nobody is paying attention because they're like, this guy always says that. He always says there's a wolf coming. They always say Miami's up to something. They always say they're going to do something. Y'all, I'm just telling you, the same way that wolf actually showed up that 3rd time around, Miami, I think, actually has the roster to make some real noise here in year 3 for a couple of reasons. 1, they have a year 3 roster under Mario Cristobal. Like, when he took this job to go to Coral Gables from Oregon, there was no wondering about what he would bring to the table. We knew he would add dudes. He would add talent. He's done that. He's done that for several cycles now. And also, he's got the portal in his back pocket, which he's used to his advantage. And they've added some really key pieces, including a Damian Martinez and a Sam Brown to that offense to help Cam Ward. We'll get back to Cam Ward in a second. The other part about being in year 3 under this staff and under Mario Cristobal specifically, year 3 culture is now in place. So I think they're tough, both mentally and physically. I think there is a way of doing things at Miami that has now been thoroughly installed and solidified, and that matters. That 110% matters when it comes to what you do on Saturdays. Cam Ward, he's here for a good time, not a long time, brother. Like, let's call a spade here. Cam Ward, he's there to play 12-plus games and go to the league. You don't get him next year. So you got this roster in year 3, this culture in year 3, and a quarterback who can make it all come together. Can you capitalize? Because if you can't do it this year, I'm not saying it can never happen, but it does have this feeling of, all right, if it doesn't happen this year, when's it going to happen? right? Because it all feels teed up to make some real noise. Also, last thing I'll say about Miami before we move on, the ACC is wide the heck open. Clemson, who knows? Florida State, really talented, but again, who knows about all the unproven production? I like Miami. Feels like a now or never sort of vibe for the folks out there in Cane country. Penn State, man, it is a very real now or never vibe for them. They have a young talent nucleus that is in year 3. Drew Aller, it's going to be his second year starting at quarterback, but his third year in the system. Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, Abdul Carter, who is a heat-seeking missile playing linebacker for the Nittany Lions. Like, they got to make something happen now. The other part of why it feels like it's got to be this year for Penn State, yes, the playoff has expanded, but look at the schedule, man. No Oregon, no Michigan, no Iowa, and guess what else? Their non-conference is West Virginia. I love country roads as much as anybody else, but I think Penn State should probably handle business there. Then you get Ohio State at the crib. Come on now. I said it before and I'll say it again. They should be 11-1. Look at what's on paper. We'll pick those games when they get there, but right now it feels like Penn State should be an 11-1 football team. 11-1 in the Big Ten, that's getting you probably to Indy, and it's more than likely getting you into the college football playoff. If not now, then when? If not now, then when? Because as manageable as the schedule is and as much talent as you have, if you come away from this season empty-handed, meaning you don't make the college football playoff, you don't make the Big Ten title game, I am looking at Penn State as a recruit, whether it be portal or high school, and I'm saying if they couldn't get it done with those guys, there's no proof of concept there with that on the roster. Like, when's it going to happen? And again, this is not me saying doom and gloom, Penn State's out of it, but it does have a very now or never vibe to it for the folks out in Nittany Nation. Also, a quick side note, when I say now or never, I'm not saying now or you fire the head coach. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying there's a window to capitalize, and if it's not this year, then when are you going to get it done? Because the chances right now are probably as good as they're going to be for success. This is one I debated on even putting on this list. I think Colorado is one to look at here with a now or never vibe. And you're saying, JD, it's year 2. You're a Colorado hater, this, that, and the other. It's like, all right, we'll turn that volume down for a second because we're not Colorado haters. It is weird. It's unfair to say it's now or never for Shedeur Sanders, for Deion Sanders, for Travis Hunter. But just what I said a second ago about Shedeur and Travis Hunter being on the roster, like if you can't get to a bowl game with arguably 2 top 20, for some folks' money, top 10 players in college football this upcoming season, how do you make a pitch to recruits that this thing is headed a certain direction? Like, I understand they're pushing hard for Julian Lewis, the USC commit, but like if you can't get it done with Shedeur Sanders on the roster and arguably the best player in college football with Travis Hunter on the roster, like when are things going to start to formulate and get better out there in Boulder? Now, again, I'm not making light of the fact that they started with a 1-win operation. They had to overhaul the roster essentially 1.5 times. Like, it takes some time for sure, but like I think the uphill battle with Coach Prime to keep pitching progress and projection in the future, like to me that would be a little bit tough. Because you talk about Colorado being a 1-win football team, there was also Northwestern with 1 win. They went and made a bowl game. Same thing with USF. They were 1 win when Deion Sanders took that job at Colorado. They went and made a bowl game. So if you're just using the 1-win comparison, not all situations are created equal, but I'm just saying, other folks have been able to get a little bit more juice out of their 1-win operation than Colorado has right now. If you can't make a bowl game this year, I would be a little bit concerned about the future out there in Boulder in terms of where that thing is headed. Now, last one, this is the most obvious one. Like, you probably even clicked on this video or you even heard this segment and you said, oh, it's going to be Ohio State. Ohio State's got to be on there. Ohio State is definitely the one that we heard the most from y'all, from the Twitter sphere. For those of y'all that watch Spider-Man or that enjoy the Spider-Man storyline, there is a timeless quote from Uncle Ben talking to Peter Parker. He says, Peter, with great power comes great responsibility. And you could just change a couple words in that statement, in that sentence, and say, hey, Ryan Day, with great roster talent comes great responsibility. It's got to be this year. It has to be this year. Now, full disclaimer, I think it would be absolutely irresponsible. I think it is a wild take to say that Ryan Day should be fired if they don't beat Michigan this upcoming season. Why? Because he's won north of 87% of his football games as a head coach. And also, by the way, he's never been a head coach before getting the gig at Ohio State. So we use this comp a lot on this show. Like, imagine you're playing a couple dive bars with your guitar, and then someone says, oh, you're on the Grand Ole Opry next week. There was no acclamation. There was no, hey, play a couple more mid-level venues. Like, figure it out on the biggest stage that music and college football has to offer, which is Ohio State. Now, with that being said, if they lose to Michigan this upcoming season, I think I will be in the minority in that opinion. Because what else do you need if you're Ohio State? I mean, you got the best backfield in America for my money. You're going to have, on paper, the best defense in America, or darn near close to it, with all those guys coming back and sprinkling in Caleb Downs from the transfer portal. You went and got a quarterback that I believe is an upgrade in Will Howard. You have one of the best, if not the best, wide receiving corps in America. You got a Big Ten head coach in Chip Kelly, who's now your offensive coordinator, who's an offensive mastermind. Like, what else do you need? If we can't beat Michigan this year, with them being 128th in returning production, what are we doing? When's it going to happen? Definitely a now or never vibe. The feel around Ohio State, to me, it's kind of like a toxic long-term relationship. And it's not toxic in the sense that they're not doing good. Like Ohio State and Ryan Day, 360 some odd days out of the year, they're doing phenomenal. Again, you're winning over 87% of your games. It's like that couple. They're happy pretty much every day of the year except for the anniversary. Because with every anniversary and not putting a ring on it, it's like, man, okay, are we just happily dating for forever here? Also, the other part of this, whenever they meet the parents, doesn't go well. That, to me, is the Michigan game. Two things you got to nail. You got to be able to put a ring on it. Got to be able to be great with the parents. So far, Ryan Day and Ohio State have struggled with Michigan and with putting a ring on it. So we'll see what happens in the future here with Ohio State, but this is definitely teed up for them to take care of business in 2024. And I'll say this too. I root for Ryan Day, man. I do. I think the sound, the noise around his football team is wild for a guy that all he does is pretty much win every other game of the season. But it's Ohio State. You got to beat Michigan. You got to win national championships. And I'm hopeful that they can turn some of that volume down this upcoming season. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.